But for any large venture that you want to get into or large goal, and I would still consider like, you know, an optimum physique or like the ideal girlfriend, um, you know, the wealth protection and expat goals, like where you want to have bank accounts, gold, Bitcoin, um, you know, uh, all passports, things of that nature. That should be very well thought out to where you're not going to fail. And investments is an example, right? You might have gone all in on Bitcoin and you know lost 80%, as opposed to if you're actually trying to hedge properly, uh, you should be looking to lose money somewhere and looking to make money somewhere, right? You've got your gold, your Bitcoin, your equities. I don't like most of those things, by the way. Um, and you're looking to have a proper hedge where each year you're losing some here, making some here, keeping pace with inflation, hopefully making a bit more than that. But you know, ultimately, you're just happy to maintain your wealth, and the bulk of your wealth comes from a business, right? So when you go all in on a, let's say, a Bitcoin or something, well, you are allowing a major failure to potentially occur. You're also allowing a major win, but it's not a risk that you have to take. Now, you can make the same argument and say, well, oh, business is risky. Well, it doesn't have to be that risky. As I just said, there's a lot of businesses you can start for very little, or if you have a good amount of net worth and multiple streams of income, you don't have to take the time risk, and you can put 20 grand towards something, hire an operator, and you know, give it 2 months and see if it gets traction, right? But ultimately, that's not necessarily considered a failure because you're using that. It's a project towards a target of, you know, you need an extra 300,000 in income a year, or you need an extra, your target's $1 million a year, so you need to do something. You'll do that and you'll do the next one. It's only a failure if you could have just taken that money and put it back into one of your businesses, right? It was a failure in planning and foresight to expose yourself to a risk when you already had that money available in one of your businesses. And as far as if someone was still working a job, if you're watching this, I'm assuming, you know, you're an entrepreneur, that's who I talk to. I don't consider the entrepreneurship thing really a risk if working a job and making bitch ass money is not an option for you. You have no choice. But you do have a choice in the type of business that you would start, right? When you buy a franchise and put 200K into it before it's sold anything, and you don't know if the location's going to work, you expose yourself to failure, and a painful one, right? As opposed to a business that doesn't take a lot of money to start, right? So there's levels to it, but it's not, you want to do everything in the proper preparation to avoid it. And I'll give you an example. And this is something I was bad at. When I was 24, I just thought I could do anything and start any business and had no feet on the ground whatsoever. Now at 40, when I'm looking to start a new venture, I do a lot of research. In fact, you know, I pay people to do the research project for me. Like right now, you know, one of my partners is looking at this oil and gas deal that we're looking to do. And we're digging in, we're calling, you know, engineers pretending to be, a client to see what their price points are. We're downloading templates of designs to see, you know, if it's feasible to do at a high margin and at repeatable, templatable operations. We're looking to see the total adjustable market of deals went off in that particular state, as well as how many states is this viable for. We're looking to see who owns the companies that would be getting the deals, who owns the companies where the deals would be delivered to us, how much those deals are going for, to see are we a small part of that percentage of the deal, which is what we want, right? Because we want to be a tiny part of that deal, which means it's not a huge headache to pay us. We want to see the deal size. We want to see what's the sales cycle? Is it a 1 month payout or is it a year-long payout, right? Is it going to be a long sales cycle? And that's a huge difference, right? As opposed to, let's say this thing costs $10,000 a month to get off the ground. You know, if we're getting paid in a month, well, then that's a 10K investment. If we're getting paid in a year, we're looking at, okay, that, you know, allocating 120K to that before we get a check, right? Then you've got to look into, you know, how many ops staff do we need? Do we need an in-person sales guy? Can we close this over the phone? Can we close it with a video call? We'll have to test the response rates to emails, to LinkedIn, to all these things. And that's all stuff, you know, I'm going to do prior to the deal, right? And just to get a feel for it, even before setting up the LLC, we're going to test the list, and we're going to test a bunch of these different factors and call around in the industries and see, you know, how many operators you need to handle these types of deals and things of that nature. And that is to save myself a year of doing something that potentially wouldn't be viable. In my sales closing business, we're testing another thing next month, right? And I know the hours it's going to take. I know the approximate amount of external output that's going to be going off via LinkedIn, reaching out to people. I've got an idea of the conversion rate that's going to come back in. And then I've got an idea of, you know, for doing ads, what the ad cost is, what the cost is to work with the marketer. You know, I'm looking for a 3x return on ads. I know that scaling beyond, let's say, 20K, 30K in spend, I might have to settle for a 2x because it's going to get worse with scale, right? So I want to know that it starts at a 3x, and so that it worst case scenario gets to a 2x, right? If I'm starting at a 2x, you know, I'm worried that the limitations to scale, and all of that's going to be done with a sort of an entry level test over the course of a week, right? And that's to prevent any type of major failure instead of just rushing in and spending all this money and time. And it's probably the time that's worse than the mental effort, because the time pulls me away from, you know, current money making ventures, right? So it's the opportunity cost of the time and the mental energy and all these things in addition to the money.